Hey guys, so today I thought we'd have a little bit more fun with some theory crafting with some new gear. So this actually isn't like it's super new gear. It's actually pretty old in Japan, but I've never really gone over it, not even really mentioning that this is a thing. One, because I had no way to get it back then, but two, because it just took a while for me to get. So, here it is. And for those of you who can't read this, which I assume is a lot of you, that stats are 450 HP, 100 maximum joules, and minus 60 joule gain. So basically, the whole point of this piece of gear is you slap it on a mage or someone who starts with relatively high starting joules, so that way you can take advantage of the maximum joules, and you essentially cast skills until you run out of skills, and then you kind of become useless because the minus 60 joules obtained or joule gain kind of just destroys any kind of joule income you have, at least under normal circumstances anyways. Um, this can have great effects, and it can also have devastating effects depending on how you use it. So I have been racking my brains for a couple days now figuring out how to best use this piece of gear. Obviously, the HP means that it can stand in for a piece of HP gear, so that means that you can actually slot it into any mage without any major issues, as HP is almost always the stat that you want to take with you. And I have it slapped on Ambrosia here because Ambrosia's leader skill actually gives 20 to maximum joules, which helps boost this up even further for a way that I am going to show you here. So I am actually just going to hop right into a map to show you what I mean. And I believe Emma also has a maximum joule leader skill, which means that Fire is capable of using it in this manner. Hop down to maybe 15. No, I need to like redo my stuff here to get it set, because it all got reset back when I had to re-download the game on DMM. So I'm actually going to toss Kuiana in here because he has the item that I want to use on him right now, which is this blue box right here. And stats on that is 50 crit, 50 luck, and 5 damage to females, and it's only usable by male units. Which actually kind of hurts it a little bit because it kind of stops it from doing exactly what I want it to do. So, as we can see, Ambrosia is now starting out with 468 starting joules. Right, so the idea is we've maximized her starting joules as much as possible. And her highest joule skill that's outside of her master's abilities, actually no, never mind. Her highest joule cost skill is 55. Which means we're going to get about 8 casts off with that and another cast off with something else. Don't forget that she does have a Drain Dimension type skill on her sub kit, so obviously you're not just going to cast this AoE multiple times. But, you know, 8 casts of a skill without having to collect any joules is actually not too bad, all things considered. However, that's not the main reason why I like this item, right? So, at the end of the day, this is good on short maps. Any kind of short map, maybe like in Vita or something, so that way your mages don't run out of joules and you can auto easier. This looks like a really nice item to have. However, the real cool thing about this actually comes in when... Okay, so, apparently his starting joules are crap, so... Let me just go gather some joules here real quick so I can show off this piece of gear. And for those of you interested, Kuiana is actually another Genesis unit. Alright, so I think we're good to go here. And, wait, which skill? There it is, okay. So, this is a 75 joule skill, so you're going to want to probably put this on a mage or something. And it's going to cast Clock Up, do a right heal, and it's going to cast a percent-based joule regen. And we're going to really see how this kind of comes in handy. As you can see, Ambrosia just recovered 46 joules off of her joule regen, which is insane. That's almost another entire attack. The only issue with this is this jewel regen only lasts for 3 turns. So she's going to gain back about 150 jewels, a little less actually, more like 140-ish. And it also costs 58% of the caster's HP. As you can see, my Kuina there took quite the hit in order to cast that skill. Now, I also looked into whether any male units have skill count up, and I want to say that Wong was the only viable one that could use it. And as I'm sure most of you know, Wong is not necessarily the best of units. So we ran into problems there that kind of hampers the ability to really use this. There aren't very many percent-based jewelry gens, so it really does limit the manner in which this can be used. I do still think this is a cool item, but obviously this is not a super effective way to use it. So moving on from there, we need to look at an effective way that we can get constant jewelry gen. And there is actually one unit in the game that does get constant jewelry gen, or at least can, and that's Tilter. You guys all just got her job plus, which means that you now all have access to her, you guys should all have access to her job plus now. And her reactive is when she gets hit, she actually casts jewelry gen on herself, a percent-based jewelry gen for 3 turns. Which is really cool. This is going to let her regen the jewels constantly when she uses this piece of gear. Meaning that she effectively can bypass the negative aspect of the minus 60 jewel gain. She will not get jewels at all for hitting things, however, she can get jewels for things hitting her. And as you can see, she has 300 maximum jewels, which means if you get 10% of your jewelry gen this way, it's going to recover 30 jewels per turn. Now, once you have gate 5, this 3x3 AoE in front of her is only 32 jewels, and it becomes a light element skill, which means that she effectively can regen this attack each turn almost without much effort at all, and all she needs to do is get hit. In fact, most of her abilities only cost about 30. I mean, there are some that cost a little bit more, but there's also some that cost a little bit less. And I think this is really cool. I actually think this might be a super good item on her. Mind you that it also increases the starting jewels she has, meaning that she can launch more attacks right from the get-go. So I actually think this is a very viable piece of gear on Tilter, assuming the conditions are right that you can get enemies to hit you consistently, or you hit her with your own units. Don't forget that Tilter's VCR increases her attack and magic attack by 30% when she's below 80% HP. So you want her to get hit anyways. You need to drop her HP below 80% in order for her to maximize her damage. I do actually really like this piece of gear on her. Obviously, you're going to have to give up on using the VCR from the Rokina Nenso, but I don't think that's that big of a trade-off. That piece of gear was more like something that I used to use because I could, and less because it was great, if you know what I mean. You never want to put regen armor on your Tilter because obviously that'll increase your HP above 80%, and then you're no longer going to be able to benefit from your VCR. And don't forget that she has her own heal, so if your HP is super low, she is capable of healing herself. So now that we've gone over that example, there's one more example that we have to look at. And this specifically has to deal with reactives that recover jewels. So I'm not exactly sure how Roxy's reactive recovers jewels, if it's based off of damage or what, or if it's based off jewel gain. You're going to have to let me know in the comments section, because it's been a long time since I've pulled a Roxy Merc out, and I never actually pulled her in Global, so I'm not super familiar with her kit. However, I do happen to have a support named Judith. Actually, I can run Kaya here to proc that. I do happen to have a support named Judith here, who can regen jewels when she gets hit. which means that adding max jewels just means that she's going to get more casts of her support skills initially. Now, unfortunately, Judith does not have access to all of her jewels. She starts out with 50%. However, as you can see, we've upped her jewels by a lot, and that means that she's going to get more starting jewels. 204 is actually not a bad value at all, and you can regen your jewels just by getting hit. Now, obviously, this isn't like a super effective way. 20 jewels per hit, your Judith is going to fall over dead eventually. But Judith was never really great at collecting jewels in the first place. And generally speaking, once your Judith has started to collect jewels, it means she's already used the majority of buffs she's going to use in a map. Not to say that she isn't going to use more in an extended map, but I'd say in general, it's not a great position to be in. Also, do not forget that you can throw the Fiona Nenso on her. And I actually don't have it on her right now for some reason. But you can use the Fiona Nenso to get an AoE jewel regen on your party and yourself to help regen some of those jewels back. Now, the skill cost on that's incredibly high, and what's really going to end up happening more than anything is you're going to mostly break even. However, if I'm not mistaken, that is a percent-based jewel regen, which means that the more max jewels she has, the more she's going to regen from that, making it a more effective skill to use when she uses it specifically. And starting off with 200-ish jewels, right? She can cast all of her Thunder AoE, Thunder Up AoEs, and don't forget in Japan those stack. She can then cast a Clock Up if she wants, you know, and she still has like 40 jewels left to spare. You know, and if she gets hit once, then she can cast like her Thunder or her Water Exploit AoE, you know, or really anything she wants to be honest. There really isn't like, I don't necessarily think this is the most effective item to use on her. However, it is definitely an option. As far as using it on Berserkers, however, Berserkers are really bad with this piece of gear, and it's not because the jewel regen drops to 0. They get almost all of their jewels from getting hit anyways. If your Berserker needs to hit things to gather jewels, your Berserker isn't getting hit enough, in all honesty. The issue with Berserker is that their starting jewels is only 15%, which means they're only going to get 15 additional starting jewels with this piece of gear. Honestly, at that point, I would just rather run a different piece of gear, in all honesty. Get something with 15 jewel gains, so that way if you do have to go hit something, you're getting like 30 jewels for hitting it instead of 0 jewels and starting with 15 additional jewels when you start out. I do not think this is an ideal piece of gear on Berserkers. However, any Berserker type unit that can main another class that has relatively high starting jewels, or like, if even better if they have like 100, although I don't know if there are any that have such a thing, are really capable of using this item super well. The whole purpose of this item is it's supposed to gimp your ability to gain jewels, but instead of gathering jewels, you're supposed to just cast until you run out of skills. However, with this particular piece of gear, you can get around this by getting either jewel regen, but through like buffs, or you can get it through reactives. It is also possible to actually out jewel gain the jewel loss on this thing with the raid pouch, but at that point you'd be running 2 pieces of gear, and honestly you wouldn't be benefiting much from either, as they would basically like, it's like, do you want to really get all those extra starting jewels then just to have like 20-ish jewel gain? It's really not worth it to run the two together. You'd use up too many of your gear slots. So how good do I think this piece of gear is? Well, I guarantee you, unless there is a unit that comes out that has 100% starting jewels and like 10% jewel regen that can proc like tilters, as well as having like 400 base jewels, this item is never going to be broken. Outside of like the most obscure circumstance where Gumi just happens to forget that this is a piece of gear and just kind of goes overboard on it, or rather makes a unit that is capable of absolutely abusing it. Like if Ambrosia had jewel regen that she didn't have to like have cast on her, she would be significantly better than she is now as a unit. However, since she doesn't have that and no unit has that, trust me, I've checked. And the only unit that I can find that can cast their own jewel regen consistently is Tilter's Job Plus. I'd have to say that this is a very unique piece of gear that might find some niche uses, but is just not going to be a standard piece of gear. I think this is a very good autoing piece of gear, like for an auto team that's like meant where like you have a bunch of mages and they constantly run out of their jewels and have to go hit things. It will prevent your auto AI from doing that, at least for a turn or two. But other than that, it's really not going to get you super far. Am I glad I got it? Yes, I am. I am glad I got it because I will probably end up using it at some point in time. In fact, I might even just slap it on my tilter just for fun. But it's just not going to be a super impactful piece of gear. So I'm sure a lot of you are asking, how on earth did I get this piece of gear? Which also actually looks kind of like a cool piece of gear. It kind of looks like there's some kind of liquid in it. But I couldn't tell you, and I never actually looked up what the kanji is for it. So if anyone wants to look up the kanji for that in the comment section, go right ahead. So when you finish a raid in Japan, you get port coins. And this piece of gear was put in the port coin shop for 7.5 thousand port coins, and it took a couple raids for me to actually get it. And raids have been fewer and farther between in Japan than they used to be. As you can see, there are LA shards, some other stuff in here that's kind of nice. But honestly, all of this stuff in here is stuff that you'll get eventually. The only other thing in here that's worth, like, super worth getting, like, immediately is the +2 move arrow, which I have never needed it, and I've never needed it for PvP because I don't really do PvP in this game. So I just decided to skip it and get the more interesting piece of gear. Even if it's not quite as impactful. So that is all I have to say on this particular piece of gear. I think it's super fun. It'd be interesting to hear exactly how that might interact with Roxy's kit. But I'm not expecting too much because I doubt Roxy has like a super high amount of starting jewels, although I haven't looked it up to be honest. But anyways, guys, that's really all I have to say on this piece of gear. Thanks for sitting through my theory crafting session. It's nice to just kind of sit down sometimes and think of the ways a piece of gear can be used. Specifically, some of these more interesting pieces of raid gear. As these raid gears are often like supposed to be like a double-edged sword, where it has one benefit that it really hammers home. Like there's one piece of raid gear that gives you like 30% of all status resist or something like that. But in exchange, you take 20. You basically give your opponent an extra 20 modifier on the damage they do to you. So you take more damage, and in exchange, you have a 30% resistance to all ailments, and it's a buff, so it actually stacks with whatever ailment resistance you have on your gear. So let's say that your character has 0 stop resistance, and you have this piece of gear, and you have a 50 stop resistance piece of gear. Well, your stop resistance is now 80. It's an interesting piece of gear, and I actually ended up pulling it out recently for just that on my auto gain setup. So yeah, I mean, some of these raid gears, they have been kind of niche, but they have come in handy. You should always grab whatever gear is available, especially if it's free. Because you never quite know when something is going to come in handy. A quick note on what happened, because on the other day, there was a long-ass video that I made that I said that I would put timestamps in, and I know that I didn't. For some odd reason, is setting on my computer got messed up, and I couldn't, despite the fact that my computer showed access to the internet, I couldn't access any of the web pages. So I couldn't access YouTube, obviously, and I was unable to go in and do any kind of editing. As I'm sure a lot of you noticed, I was kind of radio silent last night, even though I normally respond to comments on my videos. And recently there was a family friend that is in the hospital today, so I really haven't been around much today either. So I apologize for that. Honestly, I'm probably not going to go back and put the timestamps in, as the way YouTube works, you get the majority of your views within the first day, and then it just kind of trickles down to a steady crawl after that. And while some videos later on get a resurgence, especially some of my older videos with units that you guys are more recently getting Kaigans for. That video isn't really going to see that kind of revisit. So, um, I promise next time I say I'm going to put timestamps in, I will do my absolute best to put timestamps in, and I apologize for this. I really am sorry about that. A lot of stuff came up, and I had that internet issue, so, I mean, it is what it is. Life moves on. Thanks for watching this video with me, guys. I do have some more stuff planned, but this is all I got for today. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.